Hello, my friends, and I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today, I kind of wanted to get away from, the grumpiness of D&D, and, I did Dragon Age previously. I am just never going to be able to stick with being angry at anything for too long, contrary to what some people may think about my scrolling activities. So today I wanted to cover this interesting little article I stumbled upon. Elden Ring is a pretty current topic with the Shadow of the Erd Tree coming out, and people arguing about if it's too hard or if you just got to get good or whatever. I have Elden Ring on my PS5. I've played it. I enjoyed it. I didn't beat it. I should probably get it on my PC because let's face it, if I'm going to beat a game, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be on my PC. So apparently, the Elden Ring director wants to make a traditional JRPG. I think that sounds kind of interesting. FromSoftware studio head Hidetaka Miyazaki wants to explore making a traditional JRPG, breaking away from his Souls-like fame. FromSoftware has a diverse history, including JRPG like Enchanted Arms, but Miyazaki wants to create something new. However, players shouldn't expect to see sequels to old FromSoft games under Miyazaki, who aims to focus on new creations and genres. Which sounds interesting. Elden Ring creative director and FromSoftware studio head Hidetaka Miyazaki has revealed that he'd like to take a shot at developing a traditional JRPG someday. The acclaimed game designer has largely been recognized for his work on Souls-likes in recent years, so seeing him express interest in a title in a genre atypical of his past efforts is a bit surprising. Why is that surprising? If you're a creative, a lot of times you want to try new things. And I do think that just because he is great at developing Souls-like games, or the Souls games in general, doesn't mean he wouldn't be great at something else. Regardless, the prospect of a JRPG helmed by the creators of Elden Ring would likely set certain corners of the FromSoftware fan ablaze with excitement. And there'll be a lot of people who are angry too, because, there are those people out there who get very set in what they think a company should do. Although FromSoftware is nowadays best known for being the studio behind massively successful titles like Dark Souls, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and Elden Ring, the company has a rather eclectic library of games in its lengthy development portfolio. FromSoft initially made its debut with the bizarre King's Field series of action RPG. Afterward, the company branched out and worked on a wide variety of other games, like the 3D platformers The Adventures of Cookie and Cream. Oh my god, that sounds cute. And the cult classic Hash and Slash Otogi. I think I've played that. Ever since Hidetaka Miyazaki became president of the studio in 2014, though, FromSoftware has largely pigeonholed itself into a few genres. This hasn't necessarily been a bad thing for the company, but Miyazaki is nonetheless looking to shake things up, which makes sense. During an interview with the Rolling Stone, Miyazaki stated that he's interested in experimenting with new genres outside the Souls-like formula that FromSoftware established with its brutally difficult games. Specifically, he mentioned that part of him wants to create a traditional JRPG. While Miyazaki has yet to make such a game, FromSoftware itself has actually developed a JRPG before. After all, in 2006, the company released a Japanese role-playing game published, oddly enough, by Ubisoft for the 360 named Enchanted Arms. Though this particular title wasn't received all that well, if Miyazaki were to make a game in a similar vein, it could end up being something special. I wonder why it wasn't more popular. If Miyazaki does make a JRPG, it likely won't be a sequel to Enchanted Arms. That's probably a good thing. Despite Miyazaki's interest in developing a JRPG, don't expect FromSoftware to release Enchanted Arms 2 anytime soon. In fact, don't expect the company to return to the worlds of most old FromSoft games at all under Miyazaki's leadership, as the studio head isn't interested in creating new entries and franchises that he wasn't involved in the creation of. I can applaud that feeling. I mean, if you don't think you're going to give a franchise the love it deserves, then for the love of God, leave it alone. And the idea of getting new IPs, to me, is possibly one of the most exciting things. I love new IPs. Explaining this stance of his, Miyazaki said that he thinks a lot of these games are so intertwined with the directors who almost invented that style of game. Yes, As such, he doesn't want to see a scenario where he himself would make a King's Field. The same can be said about Otogi and Enchanted Arms. FromSoftware's current approach of sticking to only a few genres has paid dividends for the company, as evidenced by the recent release of Elden Ring's new DLC, the critically acclaimed Shadow of the Erdtree expansion. Even still, it would be interesting to see FromSoftware and Miyazaki branch out by making a traditional JRPG in the vein of Final Fantasy or Tales game. Honestly, I would prefer to see something more like, I know it has the name Arms in it again, but Wild Arms. If anybody here has ever played those games, I love those games. Yeah, I think I could definitely see where that could be really interesting. Something entirely new. In the JRPG space, I know we have a lot of, you have Persona, Final Fantasy, which has, Final Fantasy has changed itself so much that it's barely recognizable. I know a number of people who complain about, the new one, Final Fantasy 16, being so far away from the original formula, much like I complain about Dragon Age being so far away from the original formula. And it's understandable. When you create a legacy for yourself behind a title, then people often come back to that title expecting those things. It's the same reason why I am upset with the changes in Dragon Age. I can probably deal with the changes in Final Fantasy more just because I'm not all that attached to it. I enjoy the Final Fantasy games, but I wasn't as invested in them as I was in Dragon Age. Also, let's face it, Final Fantasy has changed. Well, actually, no, Final Fantasy changed rather suddenly. What was it? Final Fantasy 12 was where they really started changing things. Then you had Final Fantasy 13, which I don't think anybody really cared about. Final Fantasy 14, which is a fun MMO. And then 15 is really where they got into the whole far more action-oriented. And that's actually probably right there part of what irritates me the most about Dragon Age. I know I said we weren't going to talk about that. Well, what the fuck? Is the fact that everything is going more to this one gaming style because apparently someone out there decided that this is what everybody wants. I get it. You want to appeal to most people, so you change things, but you are going to lose your old audience in the process. The people who are happy with the changes because it's what they want, great, whatever. It's not what I want. And if you're happy with it, I don't get why you're mad that I'm not happy. It's the same thing with D&D. They're changing it so that supposedly more people want to play. A new group of people want to play. I am a member of the old group. I preferred the old way. Why are you mad that I don't want to play it anymore? Of course, in that case, they're saying, well, you then just don't buy it. You know what? I'm not, but that's a totally different issue. The idea of coming up with something new. I love seeing new things. That's part of why I'm so into seeing what all these indie games are making, because the idea that any of these at any moment could be the next breakout kind of game, could be the next Final Fantasy, the next thing that somebody probably in their teenage years where they have the time to really devote into that kind of thing falls in love with and goes through the rest of their life enjoying these games. I love that because that's part of what gaming is. Gaming is finding these things that you love, and I don't understand why people get mad at other people who are upset that the thing they love has changed into something they didn't love. And I don't understand the hate for tactically based games. It's like the people who are mad that Baldur's Gate 3 is a turn-based game. Oh, it'd be a great game if it wasn't turn-based. Well, so what if it's not turn-based? This is one of those situations where it's definitely not for you. Why do you want it to change? It's the same thing with the Souls games. If they're too hard for you, then maybe they're just not for you. It's one thing to go into a property, a game, or anything and look at it and say, well, I need all this to change to fit me. And it's another thing that when you've changed it all, to look around and look at the people who used to love it and say, well, it's not for you, which is possibly one of the most frustrating things for me right now. But that's why I want to see new stuff, because if they're going to change the stuff I loved, I'm not going to sit here and pout forever over it. I'm not going to stop gaming over it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to find new games to play and new things to do, because this world is endless. There is no reason that we can't all play games, except for the people trying to stop other people. If you want to play a boring ass game, you go ahead and do that. I don't have to. I've ended up on a totally separate rant. The idea of seeing Miyazaki work on something new, I think he has a tremendous ability for storytelling without direct storytelling. I know a lot of people don't like that about the Souls-like games. They feel like there isn't enough story there for them. It's kind of like I really enjoyed Scorn. And people are like, oh, it's just a walking simulator. There is no story. That game is full of story. You just have to actually pay attention. The story isn't in dialogue. It's definitely a show don't tell story, which is difficult for some people to grasp, and that's fine. But just don't take it away from me. Go find something that works for you. Anyway, guys, as a reminder, memberships are now open. So if you would like to join, you get immediate access to the videos as soon as I upload them. And a few other things, check it out. If it's in your budget, fine. If it's not, cool. I'm glad you're here either way. I just know that if I don't talk about it, people won't know. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Thursday at 7 o'clock where I will be playing Dragon Age Origins. If you have any mods that you enjoy, please go ahead and leave them in the comments for me. I was thinking about, maybe livening it up a bit. I saw a guide to basically remastering it through mods that I might check out, but if anybody has any ideas that they like, I would love to hear that. What kind of game would you like to see FromSoft and Miyazaki make? I know a lot of people don't like JRPGs. What other genres would you like to see them explore? Or what kind of JRPG would you like to see them make? Either way. Leave that down in the comments for me. And thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.